Hello, welcome to the Cool Library. I'm Ellen, and I'm going to talk to you about the movies that I watched within the third quarter of this year, which are within the months of July, August, and September. I did watch a total of 21 movies, so a good amount to talk to you about. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot to say about a lot of these movies. I didn't really keep track of like my thoughts, any notes on it, so this is just all from what I can remember, which is more so just like the feeling that I have when watching this movie or thinking about these movies. This video is also going to have a very wide range of ratings. In this video, I have my least favorite movie of the year so far, as well as my favorite movie of the year so far. So I may as well get started on my least favorite movie of the year, because I always like to go in order of least favorite to most favorite. So my least favorite movie is at a 1.5 rating. It was going to be a 1 star, but the 0.5 is just because the acting is actually absolutely incredible in this movie, but the movie is not okay. The description of the movie is: an ambitious young woman, desperate for followers and fame, fakes a trip to Paris to up her social media presence. When a terrifying incident takes place in the real world and becomes part of her imaginary trip, her white lie becomes a moral quandary that offers her all the attention she's wanted. It was just a movie about this woman who made really bad decisions, and I felt like the movie was trying to make you like understand her and still root for her, but like, no way. There were so many moments. I watched this with a friend of mine. We kept cringing at so much stuff, and like, not in a good way. Like, it was just one of those things where we were so tempted to turn it off, but we were watching it because we're trying to watch all the Dylan O'Brien movies, and we're starting with the most recent to his earliest work. It was just not good. I also think the marketing for this movie was not good either, because the only like good part about the movie, and like the only part that made it like watchable, was this one character. I believe the actress is Mia Isaac. Yeah, Mia Isaac. She played Rowan. That character was amazing, and honestly the movie should have been from her perspective, and the actress playing her did a fantastic job. So good. And the fact that she wasn't in any of the interviews or any of the marketing, so no one ever knew about her, is a disservice to that actress and the character that she played. My friend who I watched it with actually wrote a review on Letterboxd, and I'm going to read it because like, we had a whole discussion about this after watching the movie, and it just made us even angrier about the movie. This is what she wrote. She said, "The 1 star is solely for the acting, but this is the worst movie I've seen in a while. Another white woman directing a vapid movie that uses celebrities to undermine the real trauma behind activism. The way this entire movie is marketed to not include Mia Isaac, who was the standout, absolutely abhorrent, but go off, queen." That's what she wrote. But yeah, it's just, I did not like it. Next I have Love in the Villa. I do tend to like these movies where there's like really cheesy rom-coms, but this one, I just couldn't do it. So this one is about a young woman who takes a trip to romantic Verona, Italy, which I have been to Verona. I've been to a lot of the locations that they had in this movie, so that was exciting. She went there after a breakup, only to find that the villa she reserved was double booked, and she'll have to share her vacation with a cynical British man who also happens to be quite good looking. So I enjoy like the romance, but it was just way too over the top with a lot of stuff. The writing was not good. The acting was very over the top. So like, there were like moments that were enjoyable, mainly like the end, but it's definitely one that like, I'm good. This is not something I really enjoyed. All right, and then my last 2 star that I have is Day Shift, which is so upsetting because I was really looking forward to this movie, and it was a huge letdown. An LA vampire hunter has a week to come up with the cash to pay for his kids' tuition and braces. Trying to make a living these days just might kill him. Yeah, so it's a vampire hunting movie, but the writing was atrocious. And I knew the writing was going to be bad within the very first scene. I think it's the first scene, where we get introduced to our villain. And she says a line. And I literally, without ever having seen this movie, quoted that line exactly as she was saying it, because that line is overused so much in everything. And so I was like, oh no, is the writing going to be this bad? And the writing was that bad. The acting as well was not great. The only part about this movie I liked was Dave Franco. I love Dave Franco. I thought he was absolutely hysterical in this movie. Although him and Jamie Foxx had like no chemistry, but Dave Franco was the only parts of the movie where I actually laughed, and was the only times I ever actually enjoyed the movie. I was also a little disappointed with the fight scenes, because after hearing what the fight scenes were going to be like, I was so excited. I was like, yes, we're using contortionists as the vampires, and like that should make the fighting cool. It was not. It looked, I don't know. There was just a lot about this movie that I did not like, and I was very let down. All right, my 2.5 star is Zombies 3. I am a big fan of pretty much any Disney Channel original movie, but I do very much like this series. And this third one was kind of a letdown. This is the worst within the trilogy of zombies. I think the best one is still the first one, but this third one is about Zed and Addison, obviously, as they're beginning their final year at Seabrook High. In this town that's become a safe haven for monsters and humans alike, Zed is anticipating an athletic scholarship that will make him the first zombie to attend college, while Addison is gearing up for Seabrook's first international cheer-off competition. And then suddenly, extraterrestrial beings appear around Seabrook, provoking something other than friendly competition. This movie, it was fun just because you have to go into this movie, you know, knowing it's for children and to not expect much from it, but it's still enjoyable. It was just way too cheesy. Oh my god, it was so cheesy that I felt like the ending was super rushed, and honestly, I think I only liked 1 or 2 songs out of the whole song list. Like, none of these songs felt like bops to me. The first of my 3 stars is Hello, Goodbye, and Everything in Between. I do have a video up on this channel where I read the book and then I watch the movie and I discuss the differences and which I think was better. I do think the book was better. The movie was fine. I gave it 3 stars, as you can see. So this is about Claire and Aiden, who, after making a pact that they would break up before college, find themselves retracing the steps of their relationship on their last evening as a couple. The epic date leads them to familiar landmarks, unexpected places, and causes them to question whether high school love is meant to last. I don't really remember much about the movie. I do remember the movie being very different from the book, but ultimately has like the same concept, and I think the same aftermath, if I can remember correctly. But it was fine. It's just very forgettable for me, obviously. But it's not one that like I hated or would never want to see again. Like, if it's ever on, sure. More of my thoughts are in that video, which I will link down below so you can see it. My next 3 star is Pinocchio, the live action that came out this year. I think we all know the story of Pinocchio, but I'll still say the synopsis. This is the live action and CGI retelling of the beloved tale of a wooden puppet who embarks on a thrilling adventure to become a real boy. This one was also just fine for me. I didn't exactly hate it, but I don't think I've ever seen the cartoon version of Pinocchio, so I don't know how accurate it is to the original. But it's, again, a very boring movie, if I want to say, even though there is a lot that happens, but it is quite boring and just plain. But I do think the CGI was good. My next 3-star movie is 3,000 Years of Longing. I was really looking forward to this one, and this is one that I keep going back and forth on. Like, I'm still not quite sure if I liked it or if I didn't like it. Let me just tell you what it's about, and then I'll regroup my thoughts. But we have a solitary scholar. She discovers an ancient bottle while she's on a trip to Istanbul and unleashes a djinn who offers her 3 wishes. Filled with reluctance, she is unable to come up with one until his stories spark in her a desire to be loved. What I loved about this movie was the stories. The stories that the djinn were telling her about his previous women that he was a djinn for and gave 3 wishes to, and how he kind of fell in love with a few of them. It's like those were all very interesting. Like, and also too, the cinematography within those like backstory stuff was gorgeous and beautiful. But then when we get to the real world and it was like meh. And also too, when she, sorry to like spoil, but when she eventually does get a wish, when she finally realizes what she wants to wish for, she wishes for the djinn to be in love with her like he was with all the other ladies before. And that just like ruined the romance aspect of this movie, because like he's being forced into this romance and relationship. So like, is his romance with her even real? So like the romance and the chemistry was just way off, but I did enjoy the storytelling. So on to my next 3-star, which is Mr. Malcolm's List. So this movie is definitely for those who love Bridgerton, the TV show. Definitely go check this out. So this is about a woman when she fails to meet an item on his list of requirements for a bride. Julia Thistlethwaite is jilted by London's most eligible bachelor, Mr. Malcolm. Feeling humiliated and determined to exact revenge, she convinces her friend Selena Dalton to play the role of his ideal match. Soon, Mr. Malcolm wonders whether he's found the perfect woman or the perfect hoax. I did enjoy this movie quite a bit, which is why it's higher on the 3-star. I mean, there's nothing like special or spectacular about it, but if you're in the mood for a Regency romance, I say go for it. It's quite enjoyable. And then my last of the 3 stars is Bodies, 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 a horror that I didn't realize I was actually going to enjoy a little bit. It was one of those movies where like I watched the trailer and it doesn't look like something I'd be interested in, but then as I'm watching the trailer, I'm like, why am I interested in watching this? I don't typically watch horror movies. I'm not typically a fan of horror. I've been really getting into horror for books though. That's been like my genre lately. But movies, they're like too scary for me. This one wasn't too scary, so I think that's why it was fine for me. But this one is about a group of 20-somethings who get stuck at a remote mansion during a hurricane. So a party game has gone very, very wrong, which ends with a dead body on the ground and fake friends at every turn as they try to find the killer among them. This was fun to watch at times. I definitely think the ending was what sealed this 3-star for me, because before it would have just been like a 2-star. But the ending was very clever, I thought. Like the twist that happened, I enjoyed it. I was not expecting that. And that kind of then helped make the whole movie worth it for me. But yeah, no, it definitely is about a bunch of like fake friends. You think they're friends and they're a friend group, but really they all secretly like hate each other, and there's lots of drama and secrets going on. And there were moments that were kind of funny, but yeah, no, there were sometimes I was watching it like this. But it was still enjoyable enough. Alright, my first of the 3.5 stars is Along for the Ride. I quite enjoyed this romance. I never read the book, but I did enjoy this movie. I can't remember quite much about it. The summer before college, Auden meets the mysterious Eli, a fellow insomniac. While the seaside town of Colby sleeps, the two embark on nightly quests to help Auden experience the fun, carefree teen life she never knew she wanted. I did like the romance and like the chemistry between our 2 main characters, but the reveals of trauma were kind of lackluster for me. And that's all I can remember about the movie. I feel like I had more, but it's not a very memorable movie. My next 3.5 is The Gray Man, a movie that I was very much looking forward to and I thought I was gonna love, and I did not love it. When the CIA's most skilled mercenary, known as Court Gentry, aka Sierra 6, accidentally uncovers dark agency secrets, he becomes a primary target and is hunted around the world by psychopathic former colleague Lloyd Hansen, an international assassin. Yeah, this is a very action spy movie, and it's got Ryan Reynolds, it's got Chris Evans. I was really looking forward to this, and I thought they did some things well, but for me, I remember the ending just not doing it for me. Oh, but Ana de Armas I think was definitely a standout. I thought she was fantastic. I feel like everything she does is really great, although I still haven't seen Blonde yet. I do want to see that. So like, I don't think this was a good movie, but I at least wasn't bored. I did appreciate some of the action scenes, and yeah, it was just one of those movies where like I enjoyed it enough, but not enough to want to watch it again. And then my last 3.5 star movie is Elvis. So I've watched a couple of Baz Luhrmann's movies. I don't like his movies, so I was very hesitant going into this one, but I think this is my favorite of his movies that I have seen. I haven't seen all of his movies. Well, the one thing I do like about all of his movies though is the production value. Like, they look absolutely incredible. It's just everything else that I don't typically like. So this movie, as you can tell by the title, it is about Elvis. It's the life story of Elvis Presley as seen through the complicated relationship with his enigmatic manager, Colonel Tom Parker. I think the acting was really great in this movie. I think there were a lot of really great things done with this movie, and I enjoyed my time watching it. But in the beginning, there were a lot of editing and directing choices that just meh. A lot of the problems with this movie was the pacing. So it was way too long, and it was like dragged out by the end, but the beginning was like moved super quickly, and there were a lot of editing and directing choices I didn't like. But overall, I did actually enjoy my time watching this movie. And at 4 stars, I have The Princess. This was a surprise. I went into this not expecting much, and I actually had a really great time watching this movie. So this movie is about a beautiful, strong-willed young royal who refuses to wed the cruel sociopath to whom she is betrothed, and is kidnapped and locked in a remote tower of her father's castle. With her scorned, vindictive suitor intent on taking her father's throne, the princess must protect her family and save the kingdom. This movie starts off right away with a fight scene. And there are so many fight scenes within this movie, and I loved it. They were so well choreographed. I had such a fun time watching this movie. I don't think this has a great rating. I don't think many people did like this movie, but I really did like this movie. I loved the fight scenes, and I thought it was a very female badass-led film. So screw the critics, I enjoyed it. The next movie I enjoyed is The Outfit, another Dylan O'Brien movie. I had no idea what I was going to think of this movie going into it, but I did enjoy it. I think I could have liked it more. Okay, so it's about Leonard, who is an English tailor who used to craft suits on London's world-famous Savile Row. After a personal tragedy, he's ended up in Chicago, operating a small tailor shop in a rough part of town where he makes beautiful clothes for the only people around who can afford them, a family of vicious gangsters. So this is definitely like a crime mob boss type movie that all takes place, like you never go anywhere but this tailor shop. The movie all takes place within the tailor shop and everything that happens within it within, I believe, one night. Some parts, again, I think with this movie, the only main issue I had was the pacing. There were some parts that were just a little bit too slow, but it was still a very enjoyable watch, and I would not mind watching it again. Next is Confess, Fletch. This movie is about, let me just go into it, the roguishly charming and endlessly troublesome Fletch, who is played by John Hamm. He becomes the prime suspect in a murder case while searching for a stolen art collection. The only way to prove his innocence, find out which of the long list of suspects is the culprit, from the eccentric art dealer and a missing playboy to a crazy neighbor and Fletch's Italian girlfriend. This was a very fun time. I love a good murder mystery, and this had I felt like 3 different mysteries going on at one time. So that was the one flaw for me, was like there was so much going on at one time that sometimes it was hard to keep things straight. I was like, what's what's going on here? What is with this? Like, it was a little confusing at times. But overall, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the storyline, and I enjoyed my time in the theater watching this. All right, my next 4-star is The Invitation. I don't think this also did great with critics either, but I really enjoyed this one. So this is a horror, in case you want to know, a vampire horror. After the death of her mother, Evie is approached by an unknown cousin who invites her to a lavish wedding in the English countryside. Soon she realizes a gothic conspiracy is afoot and must fight for survival as she uncovers twisted secrets in her family's history. I think the main reason I am giving it more stars is because it's a sexy horror. Listen, the main guy is played by Thomas Doherty, who, you know, I have a crush. But like, I was not expecting this movie to be as sexy as it was. And like, there were sex scenes, but there were also scenes where I was watching it like this. And it did get kind of scary, but it was interesting to watch the entire time. To be honest, I did not know where the ending was gonna go, and I really enjoyed it. I do think some characters didn't get an ending. It was just kind of like, they were there, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, what happened to this character? I really had a fun time watching this movie, even though it is a horror. And then my last 4-star that I have is Bullet Train. I was just a little bit disappointed. I mean, I still very much enjoyed it, but I did read the book before going into the movie, and I do like the book more than I like the movie. I do not have a book-to-movie adaptation video for this because it just, I was not in a filming mood. I did enjoy both the book and the movie, but yeah, no, the book was better. The movie, I enjoyed it a lot, but I think it was just too many things were outlandish or unbelievable. Overall, it is a crazy, wild time. I have to give you a synopsis because I haven't done that yet. We have an unlucky assassin whose name is Ladybug. He is determined to do his job peacefully after one too many gigs gone off the rails. Fate, however, may have other plans, as Ladybug's latest mission puts him on a collision course with lethal adversaries from around the globe, all with connected yet conflicting objectives on the world's fastest train. And this all takes place in Japan as well, so I do very much love the setting, and I thought the cinematography and the visuals of this movie were fantastic. There was one character's ending that was very different from the book, and I did not appreciate that. My favorite characters were Lemon and Tangerine. Obviously, they were my favorite characters in the book. They're my favorite characters in the movie. They have the best moments and the best lines. So a very fun, action-packed movie with a really great amount of cameos that I was not expecting. So it was just a fun time. So it did its job. So now we are on to the 4.5s. These are definitely from here on out movies that I have loved. So first is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. I remember this was a viral video on YouTube, like way back in the beginnings of YouTube. I want to say like 2009, 2010, and I loved it. It was just this it was a stop animation short video about this little shell with eyes on, with like googly eyes and like shoes, and it was this really cute, sweet, innocent character. And then all of a sudden this movie came out and I had completely forgotten about Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. And I saw this and I was like, I need to see it. So Marcel is an adorable 1-inch tall shell who ekes out a colorful existence with his grandmother, Connie, and their pet lint, Alan. Once part of a sprawling community of shells, they now live alone as the sole survivors of a mysterious tragedy. But when a documentary filmmaker discovers them amongst the clutter of his Airbnb, the short film he posts online brings Marcel millions of passionate fans, as well as unprecedented dangers and a new hope at finding his long-lost family. It is just the most adorable, sweetest movie ever, and it's filmed like a documentary, even though this obviously is not true, but it has like true elements to it, in the sense of like we do follow this guy who's making the documentary and his relationship with the shell. It brings a smile to my face every time I think about it or see it. It's so cute. And then I did cry because there is a moment that's quite sad. And just this whole journey that Marcel goes on to try and find his long lost family is, yeah, I loved it. All right, my last 4.5 star is See How They Run. Okay, I loved this so much. The only reason it's not a 5 is just because it was a little bit predictable. So this is another murder mystery, by the way. We're in the West End of the 1950s in London. There are plans for a movie version of a smash hit play come to an abrupt halt after a pivotal member of the crew is murdered. When world-weary Inspector Stoppard and eager rookie Constable Stalker take on the case, the two find themselves thrown into a puzzling whodunit within the glamorously sordid theater underground, investigating the mysterious homicide at their own peril. That was an interesting synopsis. Basically, a murder happened. This person was supposed to take the play and make it a movie, and he's been murdered. And so there are a couple of suspects / potential other victims. And it's just trying to find out who done it. And it's so funny. And I loved the way it was filmed. The writing of it too was great. I found myself laughing out loud in the theater. I don't typically laugh out loud. And when I do laugh out loud, and like what I mean by saying when I laugh out loud, it's a quiet laugh. Usually I laugh on the inside. But this one actually got me to like laugh on the outside. Just not that loud because I don't like being loud in a theater. I like silence. Oh shit, I have to leave. Okay. Yeah, I don't have much time to talk because I do actually have to leave like now. So I loved it. So I guess I can't talk too much about my 5-star movies. Shoot, I did not realize that was the time. So my first 5-star movie is Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I was not expecting to give this 5 stars, but I absolutely loved it. It's about this woman. Let me get a synopsis real quick. So it's a 1950s London cleaning lady falls in love with a haute couture dress by Christian Dior and decides to gamble everything for the sake of this folly. I can never say haute couture. I can't say that word for some reason, but this was just a really great, adorable story about this old lady just wanting to look beautiful in a dress that's like really expensive, and there's a little bit of romance. I also loved her relationships with all the different people within the story, and I love how she just kind of like turned the Christian Dior world on its head. Yes, 5 stars. And now for my favorite movie of the year so far. My favorite 5-star is The Woman King. Wow. I'm sorry, but like what a movie, and I wish I had more time to talk about it, but I really don't. This movie was absolutely incredible. Let me get a synopsis real quick. So this is also based on a true story of the Ogoje, the all-female unit of warriors who protected the African kingdom of Dahomey in the 1800s with skills and a fierceness unlike anything the world has ever seen. And General Nanisca as she trains the next generation of recruits and readies them for battle against an enemy determined to destroy their way of life. So basically, the white people are coming to Africa to steal black people to become slaves. And this is about a group of women who just were badass and fought these men to protect their kingdom, their town, essentially. And it's so great, and I loved all the different layers that this story had, and the acting was absolutely incredible. Like, I was just blown away by how amazing this movie was. Okay, so I do still need to talk about TV shows, but I will have to do that at a different day and a different time, so cut to that. Now it's time to talk about TV shows. I know I'm wearing the exact same shirt. I wear the same shirt for multiple days. It just happens. So let's talk about some TV shows. First one I'm going to talk about, Stranger Things Season 4, Part 2. So there was a Part 1 and a Part 2, although I think I put Part 2 with the other wrap-up video. But just in case I didn't, I enjoyed this season, Season 4. Part 2, I wouldn't say was a letdown, but I was just expecting so much more, and I do think at some points the writing could have been better. Overall, I think Season 4 was a great season, but Season 3 is still my favorite. I also watched the Orville New Horizons, which is like season 3 of The Orville, but season 1 of New Horizons. So basically, The Orville, I think, was on Fox, but then they canceled it, and now Hulu has brought it back. But I guess for like copyright reasons or something, they had to change it a little bit. So it's The Orville New Horizons, but it's still following like the stuff after what happened season 2. This is a sci-fi comedy series. I enjoy it. It has been a couple of years since the end of season 2, so I completely forgot a lot of what happened, and so just jumping right into this season was a little confusing and jarring. Overall, I enjoyed this season. I think it took a little bit getting into it, but overall, solid season. I also watched The Floor is Lava season 2. This is just one of those shows that's like really stupid and silly, but yet I enjoy the hell out of watching it. It's just like a nice thing to have on in the background. So a nice competition show where the floor is lava, you can't fall into it, and whoever's the winner wins like $10,000. But next TV show I want to talk about is Abbott Elementary. I watched season 1. I know season 2 has just begun. I haven't started watching season 2 yet, but I watched season 1 and I really enjoyed it. This is about a bunch of elementary school teachers in Philly just trying their best. And you know what? It's really funny. It almost has like The Office quality to it, where in the sense where it's like every now and then a character will just like turn towards the camera and like make a look. And I like the characters, and it's just, I don't have much to say on these TV shows. I'm so sorry, but I like this one. Next we have High School Musical, the series, season 3. As soon as I said I don't have much to say on these TV shows, I have a lot to say for High School Musical, the series. Season 3, I did not like. Season 1, I loved. Season 2, I liked. Season 3, what is this show doing? What are these writers doing? It's like not making sense anymore. But season 3 takes place at camp during summertime, and we have Corbin Bleu guest starring this season. He is playing himself. It was a meh season. I think the biggest issue I had with this season, well, okay, the 2 biggest issues I had with the season was, number 1, I didn't really like any of the songs. None of them were bops to me. Like, none of them really stuck in my mind. And second, also involving the songs, was it felt more like music videos rather than musical numbers, which is the whole point of like High School Musical. I don't know, it just felt like the way they filmed and edited the series before just like went out the window with this season. However, I really loved episode, what was it? I think it was like episode 4 or 5. But it was the episode where it was like the Real Housewives episode. The Real Campers of Shallow Lake. That episode had me cackling the entire time. It was so funny. But yeah, no, I'm kind of disappointed in this season, but I'm still looking very much forward to season 4 after what we heard it's all about. And like, so far who's coming back, I still feel like Zach and Vanessa and Ashley are also coming back. If they aren't, I will be very upset. I'm also currently in the middle of rewatching season 1 of Boy Meets World. The reason I started watching or rewatching Boy Meets World is because of obviously the podcast Pod Meets World, where we have 3 of the actors from that show. We have Topanga, Sean, and Eric. They are watching an episode and then in the podcast discussing behind the scenes of that episode and just like behind the scenes of the show in general. And it is fascinating, and I am absolutely loving this podcast. And I'm also really enjoying my rewatch of season 1 of Boy Meets World. There was a lot that I forgot happened in Boy Meets World, and I think Boy Meets World was also one of the shows where I don't think I ever watched every single episode. I just watched it every now and then. So I'm really excited to actually like dive in and learn all the behind the scenes of this show. And I've already learned so much, and it is, yeah, it's fascinating. Next are some TV shows I still haven't quite finished yet, and that's Only Murders in the Building season 2. I'm not done it, so Don't give me any spoilers, but I am absolutely loving this season. I think I'm up to episode 5, so I guess I'm at the halfway point now. So life has just been really busy and I'm finding it hard to find time to watch TV, and it's upsetting me, but I'm very much enjoying the show and I cannot wait to see how this one ends, because I have no idea who it is, what's going on. I have no idea. I also just love getting this trio back together. Like, they have such great chemistry. I also am almost done season 1 of Blackbird. I have just 2 episodes left, but this is a limited series that's on Apple TV, and it's so good. So much better than I was expecting it to be. It's based on a true story, but it takes place in the 90s, where we're following this guy who went to jail for selling drugs, but he's got 10 years in jail. And they tell him, I don't know, some like cops slash like CIA, not CIA, FBI agents maybe. I think it's just cops though. They come in and they're like, we'll give you your freedom if you do this one thing for us. And he's like, okay, what do I have to do? And they're like, we're going to move you to a different prison. And this is a prison for, I think, like the mentally insane. And we need you to befriend this inmate because we need to find out where he buried the other bodies. Because there's not enough proof to really like convict him. So they're like, it's going to be like, he's going to come out soon. And they're like, we can't have him come out. We feel like he's murdered 14 women. So we need you to befriend him and just like find this information out. So that's what I'm watching. And it is intense, but like, oh my God, the acting in this show is blowing me away. It is so good. And then lastly, I've only watched 2 episodes because there's only 2 episodes out. And that is Ghost Files on YouTube. So we've got Shane Madej and Ryan Bergara going ghost hunting on their new show, Ghost Files, and I'm loving it. I'm definitely a Bergara, in case anyone wants to know. It's pretty much the same as like their old show, but they're bringing in audience members with this one, in the sense of like, if audience members have ghostly evidence of a single look of like a certain location, then they'll put that evidence within the show. But other than that, it's pretty much the same concept of one being a skeptic, one being a believer, and they go to these places that are haunted and try to get proof of it being haunted. But in the meantime, you also learn history of that location, and it's fascinating, and actually not that scary, so that's good. They make it very fun and funny. And I think that's gonna be it for this video. That's all I really have to say. But thank you so much for watching this. I will also link down below the books that I read within this 3rd quarter, because I also have a wrap up for that. And that is it. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you guys later with more videos.